The morning air was crisp as Clora made her way to Gunner's office, her heart heavy yet resolute. She had thought about this for weeks, and now that Gunner was fully recovered and the pack was stable, she knew it was time. Clora knocked on the door and Gunner's familiar voice called for her to enter. Clora stepped inside and Gunner looked up from his desk, a curious expression on his face. "Clora, what's on your mind?" She took a deep breath. "I think it's time I return to Alfheim. Eliana has offered to resume my training, and I believe there's still much for me to learn. The knowledge and skills I gain there could be invaluable to us." Gunner leaned back in his chair, nodding thoughtfully. "You've always had a unique connection to magic. I know how important your studies are to you. But are you sure about this?" Clora nodded. "I've given it a lot of thought, and with you back at full strength, I know the pack will be in good hands. Omega will come with me, of course, but we won't be gone forever. Just until I've learned what I need to know." Gunner's gaze softened. "You've earned it, Clora. We'll manage, and I trust you'll bring back a wealth of knowledge. But make sure you keep in touch. The pack isn't the same without you and Omega around." Clora smiled, relief washing over her. "Thank you, Gunner. I'll be back before you know it." She turned to leave, but before she stepped out, she added, "Keep an eye on everyone for me, would you? Especially Darren. He has a knack for getting himself into trouble." They shared a chuckle, and with a final nod, Clora left the office, her heart lighter and her mind set on the journey ahead. Later that afternoon, Gunner called Eli into the workshop. She arrived promptly, eager to discuss her next task. He gestured for her to take a seat as he leaned against the workbench, crossing his arms. "Eli, I need you to work on something important. I want to create magical inhibitors for supernatural beings, something discreet but effective. I was thinking a silver bracelet, something that looks like jewelry but carries a hidden function." Eli raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "A bracelet, huh? That could work. I'd need to embed it with runes and a few other enhancements to contain various types of magic. It won't be easy, but I think I can make it happen. Any particular reason for the bracelet?" Gunner's eyes took on a steely glint. "I have a specific target in mind. Rose. She's dangerous, and I have a feeling we haven't seen the last of her. If she's preying on humans, we need a way to neutralize her abilities without resorting to lethal force. Plus, having something like this could give us an edge against other threats." Eli nodded, a smirk forming on her face. "So, we're aiming to put a leash on a fire mage? I love a challenge. It'll take me some time, but I can make it work. I'll start with some prototypes and test their effectiveness. Once we have something reliable, you'll be the first to know." "Perfect," Gunner replied. "You're just the person for the job. Make sure it's tough enough to handle someone as strong as Rose. If it works on her, we'll have a powerful tool for future encounters." Eli grinned. "Don't worry, Gunner. By the time I'm done, this bracelet will be more than just a piece of jewelry. It'll be a work of art." As Clora prepared for her journey back to Alfheim, Eli threw herself into the task of crafting the inhibitor bracelet. She meticulously etched ancient runes into the silver band, layering them with protective spells and enchantments designed to restrain even the most potent magic. With each delicate stroke, she could feel the power growing, the bracelet becoming an elegant but formidable tool. Meanwhile, Clora and Omega said their farewells, the pack gathering to send them off with well wishes and promises to keep her spot ready for her return. They watched as she and Omega passed through the portal to Alfheim, vanishing into the shimmering light. The pack knew she would return even stronger, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Back in the workshop, Eli finally finished the bracelet, holding it up to the light. It gleamed with a faint, magical aura, the runes glowing softly as if alive with their own energy. Satisfied, she slipped it into a small velvet pouch and made her way to Gunner's office. Eli entered, holding the pouch out to Gunner with a look of triumph. "It's ready. This bracelet is no ordinary piece of jewelry. Once it's on, any attempt to use magic will backfire and weaken the wearer instead. I'd love to see Rose try to set fire to anything with this on. Gunnar took the pouch, a satisfied smile crossing his face. Excellent work, Eli. Now all that's left is to see it in action. I'll be sure to give Rose the honor of testing it out. Eli chuckled, crossing her arms. I'd pay to see her reaction. Just make sure you don't go easy on her. After everything we've been through, she deserves a little payback. Gunnar nodded, slipping the pouch into his jacket pocket. Don't worry. I'll make sure she gets the message. With this, we're one step closer to keeping Earth safe from those who would use magic for their own gain. As they shared a nod of understanding, Gunnar couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of determination. With Clora off gaining wisdom from Eliana in Alfheim and Eli's crafted inhibitor in his hand, the pack was better equipped than ever to face the challenges ahead. Gunnar called the pack together, his eyes focused and resolute as he outlined his plan. He was heading into the Shadow Realm bar with Ashley, his aim clear: to get the enchanted bracelet on Rose, the fire mage. He made no promises of a clean mission, knowing Rose's unpredictability, but he knew it had to be done. After gathering their gear, he and Ashley made their way to the bar, blending into the late-night crowd as they entered. They navigated through the crowded, dimly lit room, finding a table toward the back. Ashley took a seat, casually scanning the crowd, ready for anything, while Gunnar fixed his gaze on the bar. There, framed by the soft glow of the bar lights, was Rose. Her red hair fell over her shoulders in waves, catching the light as if it were lit from within. She was magnetic, her presence drawing eyes and attention from everyone around her, a silent pull that was both alluring and dangerous. As he watched, Rose turned and caught him looking. A knowing smile spread across her face as she sauntered over, her eyes never leaving his. "Well, well, look who it is," she purred, her voice a smooth, velvety whisper as she leaned against the table, one eyebrow raised. "I thought I saw you eyeing me." Gunnar met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "Yes, I am," he replied coolly, his voice steady as his eye glowed faintly blue. "I see your true form, Rose." She giggled, the sound light and airy, yet laced with a hint of menace. "Oh, you're one of those types, she teased, her voice a blend of mock surprise and playful threat. "Glad you like what you see. Maybe later we can explore more of my true form." She leaned in close, her breath warm against his ear as she whispered, "But for now, let's have some fun." Gunnar stood firm, unshaken. "I'm here for answers," he replied, his tone low and commanding. "Behave, please." Rose tilted her head, eyeing him with newfound interest. She ran a finger down his arm, a sly grin playing on her lips. "You're no fun," she murmured, "but I do like a challenge." She stepped back slightly, her eyes narrowing as a faint crackle of energy shimmered around her, the telltale signs of a spell forming. But Gunnar just smirked, crossing his arms. "You'll have to try harder than that," he said, a hint of a smile in his voice. "Your spells won't work on me." Rose's grin widened, a flash of sharp fangs gleaming in the dim light. "Oh, I'm not here for magic tricks tonight. I'm here for you." She reached up, her hands trailing along his shoulders as she leaned in close. "Trust me, I can be quite persuasive when I want to be." Her voice dropped to a sultry whisper, her breath hot against his neck. "What's the matter, Gunnar? Afraid you might enjoy yourself?" Gunnar met her gaze, unfazed. "That won't work on me, Rose. I know why you're really here." She hesitated, her playful demeanor faltering as she glanced away. For a moment her expression softened, and she looked almost vulnerable. "Maybe I just wanted a little excitement," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "It's boring out there, you know." But Gunnar wasn't swayed. He reached into his pocket, pulling out the silver bracelet Eli had crafted. He moved with speed and precision, snapping it onto her wrist before she could react. Rose gasped, her form wavering as her magic was stripped away, leaving her in a more human-like appearance. "What? What have you done?" she demanded, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. She tried to pull away, but Gunner's grip held firm. "Just leveling the playing field," he replied, his tone icy. "Now we're going to have a little chat." Rose glared at him, her green eyes flashing with defiance. "You think this will stop me?" she hissed. "I may not have my magic, but I don't need it to make you pay." She leaned in close, her breath hot against his ear as she whispered, "I always find a way." Gunner didn't flinch. "Then I look forward to it," he replied, his gaze hard as steel. "But for now, you're coming with me." He nodded to Ashley, who stepped forward, handcuffs ready. As they escorted Rose out of the bar, a hush fell over the crowd, curious eyes following them as they disappeared into the night. They had accomplished their mission, but Gunner knew this was far from over. Rose was a formidable enemy, even without her magic, and he had no doubt she would try to escape at the first opportunity. But for now, he had the upper hand, and he intended to keep it. As they drove away, Rose sat silently in the back seat, her eyes fixed on Gunner with a burning intensity. He could feel her gaze on him, a silent promise of vengeance that lingered in the air. But Gunner merely glanced back at her, a faint smile playing on his lips. He had faced greater threats than Rose Emberheart, and he wasn't about to back down now. The pack had taken the first step in uncovering the secrets of the Shadow Realm, but there was still much more to uncover. And as Gunner looked back at the bar fading into the distance, he knew this was just the beginning. The ride to the safe house was quiet, with only the hum of the engine and the occasional rustle as Rose shifted uncomfortably in the back seat. Gunner drove with practiced precision, his eyes fixed on the road, while Ashley watched Rose from the passenger seat, her gaze unyielding. The safe house was tucked away in a forgotten corner of the city, a small, unassuming building shrouded by dense trees. It had served as Gunner's hideout years ago, during his time with the agency. He hadn't been back in ages, but the place still held the familiar scent of old wood and the faint traces of countless missions. Inside, Gunner led Rose to a worn-out chair in the center of the room. She looked around, her nose wrinkling in disdain as her green eyes took in the dimly lit surroundings. "Charming," she muttered, folding her arms over her chest, the silver bracelet still clasped tightly around her wrist. Ashley shut the door and stood by it, arms crossed as she watched Rose with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. "So," Gunner said, breaking the silence as he leaned against the table across from Rose, "why don't you tell us what you've been up to?" Rose smirked, a glint of mischief in her eyes as she settled back in her chair. "What makes you think I'll tell you anything?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Last I checked, I don't owe you a thing." Gunner's expression remained stoic. "No, but you're going to, because you don't have much choice. Start talking." She sighed dramatically, twirling a strand of red hair around her finger as if bored by the whole ordeal. "Fine," she huffed. "You want to know what I'm doing here? Why I'm luring men to the Shadow Realm bar? It's simple, really. I'm bored. After centuries of being hunted, controlled, and manipulated, a girl needs a little fun." Ashley leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "You call what you do fun?" she asked, her tone sharp. "Those men you've been toying with aren't playthings." "Please," Rose replied, rolling her eyes. "I don't hurt them. Well, I might enchant them a little, make them think they're having the time of their lives. And they are for the most part. No one gets hurt, and I get a night of entertainment." "And what about the fire magic?" Gunner pressed. "You're not just some harmless flirt, Rose. You're dangerous, and we both know it." Her gaze hardened, a flicker of something darker passing over her face. "Oh, I know exactly what I am," she replied, her voice low. "But do you think I ask to be this way? To spend my life on the run because everyone either wants to control me or kill me?" Her expression softened, and for a brief moment, a hint of vulnerability appeared in her eyes. "I didn't ask for this," she murmured. "I just want to live my life without someone trying to stick me in a cage." Ashley raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. You're saying you're the victim here? Rose laughed bitterly. In a way I am. I didn't ask for you to come after me with that magic dampening device. I'm not a monster, Gunner. I don't hurt people for no reason. I just want to be free, to live my life without interference. Ashley shook her head. So that's it? You're just here for fun? Rose gave a slow, resigned nod. That's it. You can make me out to be the villain all you want, but I'm just living. Or trying to, anyway. But I suppose that's a crime in your book. Gunnar studied her carefully, searching for any sign of deceit. And the humans you've been luring out of the bar? They're just distractions, she said dismissively. They're lonely, they're curious, and I give them a little excitement. Is that such a crime? Gunnar exchanged a glance with Ashley, his expression unreadable. You're playing a dangerous game, Rose. This world isn't yours to toy with. You don't belong here. She tilted her head, her expression defiant. And yet here I am. I'll leave when I'm ready. Until then, I'm not hurting anyone. He held her gaze for a long moment, then finally nodded. We're letting you go. But that bracelet stays on. When you're ready to leave Earth, you'll come to us and we'll take it off. Rose smirked, leaning back in her chair. Fine. Keep your little toy on me. But remember, I won't be here forever. I have my own plans, and they don't involve you. Ashley unlocked the door and stepped aside, watching as Rose stood up, brushing herself off with a faint look of disdain. Well, this has been fun, Rose said, flashing them both a cold smile. But I have better things to do. Gunnar held her gaze, his expression firm. If you step out of line, you won't have another chance. You'll be dealt with. She raised an eyebrow, an amused smile playing on her lips. We'll see about that, she said, before turning and walking out of the safe house, her red hair disappearing into the night. As she left, Gunnar turned to Ashley, a thoughtful look on his face. Think we can trust her? Ashley shrugged. Not in the slightest. But as long as that bracelet's on, she's harmless. And if she steps out of line, we'll be ready. Gunnar nodded, though he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the last they'd see of Rose Emberheart. She was a force of nature, unpredictable and volatile, and he knew that with or without her powers she'd find a way to stir up trouble. But for now they had done all they could. The next move was hers.
Well, you found your way to the end, haven't you? That must mean you're curious, and we love curiosity around here. Before you vanish into the ether, take a moment to subscribe. It's just a click, and trust me, you'll want to stay in the loop for what comes next. And while you're at it, give the video a like. The energy exchange is good for you. Hit that notification bell too. You wouldn't want to miss out on any of our magical misadventures. Who knows what I might conjure up next? Alright, off you go. But remember, I'll know if you didn't subscribe. See you on the other side.